People of Reddit, how do you feel about your first kiss and the first person who kissed you ever? He died by suicide 2 years ago. And #X200B. I'm 41F and he was my first kiss when we were 15 years old. We dated for 3 years and were each other's first love, but just like most teenage relationships, we ended very badly and then both went off to separate colleges. I hadn't seen or heard from him since we were 18. And #X200B. I received a phone call in October of 2020 from an old school friend telling me that Joe was dead and had passed away by suicide several days ago. Honestly, the room started spinning. I felt so sad and upset. And #X200B. I realized that, for all of these years, a part of me had always hoped we'd bump into each other again someday. And that I would have loved to have seen how his life turned out and if the dreams and plans he had for himself at 18 had ever come true. I really felt very sad and reflective for quite some time after receiving that news and have since reconnected with several old friends from that time in my life, and they were able to tell me a bit about his life. And #X200B. He suffered from depression and lost his job during the pandemic. Seeing no way out, he sadly ended his life leaving a wife and children behind. He was severely ill and our health system failed him. He slipped through the cracks and a calamity of errors on the part of the hospital he attended saw him untreated and unsupervised. At the time his poor mind left him and he took his own life. And #X200B. Since then, I haven't been able to get him out of my head, and I wish so much that I could have seen and talked to him just one last time, but life doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, I feel alone and isolated in my grief. Because how can I explain how sad I feel about someone I hadn't seen in over 20 years? How can I explain to my fiancé that I feel genuine grief over my first love? Or my friends? It sounds crazy. And #X200B. So he's been on my mind ever since, and the finality of knowing that there is no chance I'll ever bump into him unexpectedly has been surprisingly difficult to bear. My first kiss was with someone from work. Yes, believe it or not, I had it that late. It stayed with me forever because before she kissed me I said something to her that hurt her slightly. I didn't mean it though. But somehow she managed to move past that for us to leave work together like we agreed earlier. I felt guilty about what I said, and she was such a sweet girl too, so I cried saying sorry to her. Her response was to kiss me. That was when I knew I never wanted to hurt this person again. We have been together 6 years now and are getting married in 2 weeks. Thought it was weird and awkward. Did not see the appeal at the beginning. No fireworks and no explosions. Something like skin on skin. Not arousing at all. But kept going and started liking it better each time. Grossed out. I was only 12 and he was 16. I love my first kiss story. I waited until I was 17. Not for any religious reasons. I just wanted to make sure I was ready. My friend asked me out on a date and he picked me up in his car. He met my father at the door. He opened the car door for me and took me out to a movie which he paid for. Afterwards I bought us a couple of sodas and a small pizza to split. Then he dropped me off at home and kissed me goodnight. It was just this perfect movie first date and first kiss. We didn't end up dating terribly long and we weren't in love or anything. But we were respectful and kind to one another. Never had one. I've been kissed on the cheek though, if that counts. Smiling face with tear. Was awful. He was a rich kid with awful breath. Like sewage smell. Tried to French kiss as well. I wanted to barf. My first kiss was at 20 with the wonderful guy that became my boyfriend and then my husband. It was amazing. I liked him a lot and I was unsure if he felt the same, and when he kissed me it was all fireworks. I grew up in a semi-conservative home where cultural it was a shame that women dated around. And sex before marriage was also a sin. But with him I felt very good, and then I kissed him many times after because the feeling was so good. If you would excuse me, I should kiss my husband. First kiss was not the best. I was so nervous and obviously not good at it. But I'm engaged to that person now, so I feel pretty great about them. Heart. I was out with friends. She was out with friends. We ran into the group. She blurted out, "Who wants a kiss?" Quote. Never saw her again, so there's not much more to that story. It was kinda not great, but what first kiss isn't? They smelled kinda bad but weren't a bad person. Happened during a viewing of Ratatouille. I was pretty repressed at the time. Most of my fantasies were romantically inclined. So you can imagine having my first kiss at 15 during a Pixar movie was pretty ace for me. But she soon lit a fire that was a lot more sexual in nature. And I don't mean, she was so attractive that instincts and hormones took over. Nope. She taught me some shit, and once that box had been opened there was no closing it. She was great.